The 2021 season for Auburn football is just around the corner, and the homestand features an impressive lineup that is sure to please any Auburn Tiger fan. Let's discuss which ones would be best to attend this year and how we might rank them. My name is Kyle Loomis. I'm the owner and editor of the E2C network where the Auburn family speaks. Our content here and on our podcast network may tend to be Auburn sports heavy, but if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. Check out the links in the description for ways to help support our content, and thank you to members of the Booster Club like John Stokes who help produce videos like this. 7 home games for the Auburn Tigers in the 2021 season. This is going to be an incredible year with some really good games. Now, let's be honest, a few of these are going to be really obvious on where, or at least how high they're going to rank. There's a couple of big rivals coming up this year in the homestand, and some familiar faces, but also some new faces. And each one of these games, I think, have low and high points, which are going to make them interesting to see where we might rank them in the most likely ones that, like for me personally, that I would attend, but I think that you should consider attending as well. All the factors that I'm considering in my discussion of this and ranking are going to be the context around the game, the actual opponent themselves, what they look like this year, the timing of the game. Speaking of timing, even like the time of day it's going to be playing. I know we don't know that a lot for some of them yet, but some of the other ones, we do have some of that knowledge already. Future implications for what this could mean for the team and the conference, especially for those SEC conference games. Basically everything that we already know about the games without them actually being played. That is what I'm factoring in into my discussion and how we'll rank each and every one of these. So let's go from the bottom all the way up to the top and see if you agree with me on which games are the best for the Auburn homestand in 2021. Number 7, Georgia State. There's not a lot to say here. It's Georgia State. It's one of those schools that you schedule every single year that you want to use as a tune-up game. Now, Auburn doesn't need to lollygag around and let them do things in this game because this is still an Auburn team that's getting its feet back under itself after a regime change, after a very odd year for everybody, to be honest with you. But I think this is one of those games that Auburn obviously needs to take seriously, but should expect a tune-up, a cleanup game, a game where they can put some more athletes out in the field to give them some more time to play, especially some of those young faces and popular names out there like Demetrius Davis that they want to see play and just see what they can actually do in legitimate game time. It's the 4th game of the year right before we start SEC play. So a lot of people are going to see this as a break time. Think about it. You're going to be coming off of a huge game with Penn State as well. This could be a time where people are like, I just traveled all the way up to Pennsylvania. Don't know if I'm going to come back to the Plains for Georgia State and go through the tailgating process. As much as we love it, it takes a lot out of you. So I think a lot of fans will see it almost as a break time. Let's just stay home and watch this one. Number 6, Mississippi State. I know a lot of you are surprised probably to see an SEC team already showing up with some other non-conference opponents that are on the schedule already. We'll get to them in a second. This one for me suffers the most for the same things that Georgia State does, but only it has the SEC factor, which is what ranks it higher than the Georgia State game itself. Mike Leach is entertaining, let's be honest. He's a great character to have on the sideline, and obviously leading up to game week, we'll probably have some one-liners and interesting schemes that he uses as a head coach to kind of gear his players up for the game. But will his team be as interesting as him? Based off of last season, got a lot of early hype, but then it petered off as time went on. Personally, I'm just going to expect the same to happen here, even if they do get that early hype to start off the season. Personally, I'm expecting a very convincing win from the Tigers. Not saying it's going to be a blowout, but I think Auburn will handle their business. Number 5, Alabama State. Number 5, Alabama State. How does a small school like Alabama State get higher in the rankings than an SEC team? A couple factors that go into this. Really, honestly and truly, if I had to just kind of narrow it down, it's what they bring to the table. Let's talk about this first, an Alabama matchup. And I'm not talking about our rival across the state. I'm actually talking about some of the smaller schools, something that Alabama themselves will not actually do to play teams like South Alabama, Jacksonville State, Alabama State. Auburn has shown a willingness and a desire to do that and to take that risk. Alabama, they're scared to tarnish that legacy that have. Auburn will put it all on the line. So I love Alabama matchups, letting some of the smaller schools in the state come and showcase their stuff here. let's also talk about the obvious thing here. Alabama State has a great band, and it's going to be one of those times that you don't necessarily want to get up from your seat at halftime because you want to watch the band and watch what they do. Something they're very well known for, and I would be looking forward to that as well. There's also the energy that the fans themselves bring. Look, the fans know they're not coming here to get a win 99.999% of the time, but they are excited to be there on the big stage in Jordan-Hare Stadium, and they love every second of it. So that energy they're going to bring is really going to play well in the stadium. This is also going to be a tune-up game right before Penn State, so there's going to be a lot of things that Auburn fans are going to be really interested to see before their first big matchup of the season. Number 4, Ole Miss. Who is more entertaining, Lane Kiffin or Mike Leach? I will grant you that they both have their own interesting ways about themselves, and it's pretty funny to see that the state of Mississippi has both of them in it now for their two major schools. I would just argue that Lane Kiffin probably, in my view, has more of an interesting team than Mike Leach would, and that's why he ranks up higher in my rankings as an SEC school, but as a team overall, simply from that fact alone. Also, this is going to be the heart of Southeastern Conference play for Auburn and really determining the trajectory of their season. Now, they will have already gotten Georgia and LSU out of the way, but this is right there in the middle, and depending on how all those things go, it's going to be one of those games that's determining how they respond to it and how the rest of the season will look for the Tigers. And let's not forget that usually with Lane Kiffin, you get a high-powered offense, which means fireworks will be flying, probably a really good test to tune up the defense for the rest of the season. Number 3, Georgia. I know what you're thinking. Hear me out, though. I will grant you that Georgia is going to be the second toughest opponent on our schedule, usually every single year, but definitely this year. But they also come with their own struggles and issues that they're going to be having to work out with the rest of the season. They're going through some depth chart and some transitions, some important positions for themselves, but while they do retain some of their stars as well, which makes them a formidable opponent, I think some of that early on the season is ripe for the picking for Auburn to take advantage of, which makes them probably vulnerable to an upset by the Tigers in Jordan-Hare Stadium, which makes it for a good game and why it ranks so high for me. A bigger question and a bigger factor to talk about with this is, will the LSU game before this one deflate us? There's going to be a lot of emphasis placed on that LSU game on the road. Will the result of that affect the Tigers' performance at home against Georgia? Obviously, only time will tell. Number 2, Akron. I know again. Listen, just hear me out again on this one. I think there's a lot of factors that go into the first game of the season for the Auburn Tigers. I don't think I really need to make more of a case from that alone, but I will try to do justice here. It's the first game of the season. It's the first game of Coach Bryan Harsin's tenure as head coach. It's the first night game of the season. It's the first regular season game that's going to be somewhat normal after the weirdness that was the 2020 season. Have I made myself clear? This game is going to be high intensity, energetic. The energy that's going to be surrounding that stadium on campus throughout the day while people are tailgating, headed into the night there, and when everybody arrives there for the very first time together as one, it's going to be an absolutely incredible atmosphere. And the Akron Zips, I don't think they're ready for what they're about to walk into. That is why it justifies putting Akron at number 2 over the Georgia game for this season at least. Number 1, the Alabama Crimson Tide. There's not really anything that needs to be expanded on with this. It's our number 1 rival, the number 1 team that we have circled on our schedule every single year. It really doesn't have anything else that needs to be justified with it. The question is for me, how big will this game be? Like, how much separation will be the number 1 and number 2 spot for my rankings here? And I think a lot of that depends mainly on what Auburn controls within its own destiny and itself. How their season goes, what are their expectations, what they possibly could do, or maybe are trying to salvage. It could go either way at this point. We don't know. I'm as optimistic as a person as anyone, but it's going to be the last game of the season, and it could really be something that really finalizes in a special season or holds the season together if Auburn could pull off an upset of the Alabama Crimson Tide in Jordan-Hare Stadium. Iron Bowls are always special, and I'm sure this one will be as well. The big question is now, do you agree with my rankings? If not, how would you change the order? I'd love to hear from you in the comments section below. Let me know what you think about that. If you enjoyed this type of content, we do please ask that you help support it by smashing that like button. And if you want more content from us, be sure to hit the subscribe and notification bell so you never miss an upload or a live stream. There are also other ways to help support us listed in the description for this video, such as the E2C Network Booster Club. Thank you for tuning in to the E2C Network, where the Auburn family speaks. War Eagle.